Welcome to this episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Odd with your host, Mark and Sam. Hi, Sam.
Hello there.
Right, we're starting a whole new long form, aren't we? We've just finished Hammer. We finished up on, what was it, Legend of the Seven Golden Empires. And now we decided we're going to do the animated or partially animated movies from Disney. And we got a lot here, right? There's a lot to. We're going to be doing this for, I reckon, 3 or 4 years. Actually,
Probably.
That's how it feels. So we're starting with the first, obviously, Snow White and the Seven Dwarves from 1937. Amazing. Walt Disney's first feature film. They did a load of shorts before this. Mickey Mouse was well known, wasn't he? And Donald Duck and Goofy, and they're all well known. And then they did also other little adventures that kind of are fairy tale kind of, Three Little Pigs, things like that, right? Tortoise and the Hare, things like that. But this was a long form movie. He made the first animated movie, I believe.
Apparently, there's some lost media that could be considered it, but this is overall first.
I think there was some long animations, but when I say long, I think like 20 minutes. This was what was it? Over an hour for sure, wasn't it? 83 minutes. This was, and it first came out December. It opened in America December the 21st, 1937. But that's when they used to release to one theatre only, and then before it got to a more general release. So it was in a special theatre, a Cathay Circle Theatre. I'm gonna guess that's New York. Let me have a quick.
Los Angeles.
My mistake. Of course, it's Hollywood. So it released then, but then on general release February the 4th. 1938. Now, there was a lot of doubt, I believe, around the film because no one thought a full-length cartoon no one would want to sit for a full-length cartoon because everyone used to short cartoons and that was it. But no, this was a big success. It became the highest-grossing film in 1938.
Yeah, I think it was the highest-grossing sound film of all time.
For a while, until Gone with the Wind, I would guess. Yeah. It's and it went on re-released. Disney famously re-released their features every 7 years. From this point, so I'm going to guess this was released every 7 years for quite a long time. Though I don't think they did it for every film in the end because they got so many they'd have a film every week, right?
And there's probably a few that's like, we don't want to really re-release this.
Not
just like Song of the South. I'm talking more like ones that just didn't do well, like Black Culture.
There's a few that just people wouldn't go to see. We'll be covering all of those. We'll be covering all of those. And we're also covering the partially animated ones. I'm talking Mary Poppins, Bedknobs and Broomsticks, personal favourite, Bedknobs and Broomsticks, Pete's Dragon, things like that. So, and we'll kind of, as we get towards the tail end of it, we'll figure out whether we're going to do Pixar and stuff. Probably won't, but we'll see, right? We'll see.
We can do that as
we'll
a different
probably
check. So.
Pixar's his own thing, really. Okay, I mean, we've both seen this film before.
I think everyone's probably seen it a dozen times over.
It was interesting rewatching it because it didn't quite flow the way I remembered it. The scenes were quite long, right? There was quite long scenes.
There's quite long scenes, and weirdly, as something I just do not remember, there's bits where there's not a narration but text on screen. It just describes the transitions between the parts.
Yeah, and that wasn't animated, was it? That was they filmed a book. They filmed a book for those parts. This is based on a Brothers Grimm story, right? From the 1812, it says here. I think it wasn't entirely faithful, but mostly.
No, well, in the book, there's 3 different attempts to get Snow White killed.
Okay, they contracted.
And one here,
and it's interesting because the early scenes, the setup, her lost and are quite protracted, but not boring. But they're just quite protracted, and you forget how long they are.
Like she's running around the woods for a good 5-10 minutes in an 82-minute film.
Yeah. It was nominated for Best Musical Score, and apparently the year after this, the Oscars gave Walt Disney an honorary Oscar for the film because it was so standout. There was no category, there was no standout, and apparently it was a unique award. It wasn't, instead of the usual statuette, it was 7 mini ones. Oh no, there was one normal size one and then 7 mini Oscar statuettes.
That's nice.
Yeah, and Shirley Temple, the famous child star of the age, presented it. So that was something. It's very well regarded film and really did kick off things for Disney, and it was kind of interesting. And I always liked the fact that Disney went kind of quite creative and odd very early on. We followed this up with Pinocchio and Fantasia. Yeah. And then we get Dumbo. There's very odd sequences in all of these.
He goes from like a couple of famous books. So you got like Snow White and you had Pinocchio, which was, I can't remember if it's considered like Italy's famous book or something. But then like Bambi and Dumbo are based on books, but apparently books that Walt just found at like a flea market.
Oh, and he got the
license. Yeah, he just liked them. Yeah. And just rolled with it.
Yeah, and this is a tradition throughout. I mean, sometimes it's famous, like Alice in Wonderland. Sometimes it's not so famous, but still kind of well regarded. And I'm talking Mary Poppins and 101 Dalmatians, things like that, right?
Yeah. Even Sword in the Stone is based on an adaptation of the King Arthur story.
Okay, right. So we get a young Snow White. I'm not sure how young she's supposed to be, but she's pretty young, and
I've read she's 14, but it's never really stated in the film.
Okay. So, and she's kind of made to work as well. She's
a maid. She's a servant.
But the Queen is kind of enraged by a mirror. She's got the magic mirror. She asks, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest?
No, she doesn't say mirror, mirror on the wall.
Oh,
she says magic mirror. Right, this is one of those. I can't remember what it is.
You caught me out there.
The proper terminology for it is, but it's like the thing people misremember.
But the mirror, which I really love this bit of anime. I love how the mirror's presented. That kind of, that actor's mask, the sort of mask you see when acting is, the two masks, a smiling and a frowning mask. It's basically a mask like that, isn't it? Yeah, it's like an Italian tragedy mask or comedy mask. And it basically says Snow White's the fairest, which winds her right up. And basically she orders the huntsman to go kill Snow White, and he doesn't. Now, again, I misremembered. I thought there was a scene where the huntsman comes back with the heart in a box and gives it to her, but that scene doesn't exist, does it? She's just
later
got the
transition.
box.
She just has the box.
It's weird. I could have sworn that was a thing. I would have bet money on it. But yeah,
there's probably like half a dozen animated versions, and you've seen it in some other one that you've watched.
Yeah.
Like you're just sort of associating it with this one, so.
Probably. But then Snow White, the huntsman can't bring himself to kill her, and basically she runs away. And there's quite a scary sequence where she's running through the woods, and the woods kind of come alive and or appear to come alive to her. There's scary eyes. Trees seem to be grabbing her, which I made the crack while we were watching it about the Evil Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just wrong.
Especially bad because we don't know how old she is. So it's like,
But those trees kind of, that kind of tree look was reused in Wizard of Oz, right? The trees in Wizard of Oz.
Well, that whole sort of evil tree aesthetic has been used quite a lot in Disney films. Off the top of my head, I can remember it appearing in Ichabod and Mr. Toad.
Okay, yeah. When you want to make the woods scary, and I feel like Peter Jackson was following it a bit in some of his stuff in Lord of the Rings. There was scary woods, wasn't it? And also it comes up in, this is a bit more obscure, in the late 60s, early 70s series, Puff and Stuff. There's kind of scary trees in that too.
Yeah.
Which itself was channeling Wizard of Oz, wasn't it? So this is quite a long sequence. She's kind of scared in the woods. Then she finds a little house and thinks it's children because the beds are so small.
Yeah, she thinks
dusting.
First off, she goes, "Oh, there's children, but there's no big bed. Maybe they're orphans. I better do something to make this nice for them."
Yeah, and she gets
odd leap of logic, but she gets the woodland critters to clean everything up.
Basically we get Whistle While You Work, right? And we get all that, and all of these critters using their tails to sweep up and catch cobwebs, and it's all very massively unhygienic, frankly.
And all very not lip synced at all.
Yes.
It's something I noticed is there's a lot of cutaways whenever there's a singing scene, so you don't actually have to lip sync the singing.
Yeah, they still had to coordinate the music to the frames, though.
Oh yeah,
they?
that
there was plenty of work.
That's easier than lip syncing, having done.
Yeah, I guess so, because you can edit how you like as long as you're following the beat of the music. It's to the beat, isn't it? Not to the music as such. So apart from the whistling birds and stuff, And she thinks they're orphans, so she cleans up the place and makes a meal. And then we cut to the dwarves, the famous dwarves. Now, I just assumed that these dwarves in this, Doc, Grumpy, Happy, Sleepy, Bashful, Sneezy, and Dopey, were the names of the dwarves in the original text. But I'm not even sure they're named in the original text. And I've seen other versions where they got completely different names, right?
Yeah, I've seen one where they're named after days of the week, one where they're named after colours.
Yeah. So that makes sense because there's 7 days a week and there's 7 colours in the rainbow, right? So that kind of makes sense. But and we get this fabulous scene, I think, in where hi ho, that one, which we also saw recently in another film, didn't we? We were watching Gremlins.
Yeah, we watched Gremlins,
and of course that's the scene the Gremlins are watching. Are fascinated by. It seems perfect for Gremlins as well. Dwarves being small and stuff, and we get introduced to all the characters. The kid's favourite is usually Dopey. Dopey's the kind of fun one, and we get basically it looks like they're mining out cut diamonds out of the rocks. Yeah, that's what they're doing. They must be.
They've got some sort of operation going on where there's most of the mine. Doc is analyzing them, and Dopey moves stuff around. Yeah, but they don't actually seem to do anything with them. They just chuck them in a vault and go home.
And then leave the key, lock the vault, and leave the key
right next to it.
Yeah. But they must be actually millionaires, given what it look like. Because
I put them up there with Smaug on the fictional millionaire list.
Yeah, they've got a lot of money, and then they find their cottage has been cleaned, and someone's upstairs.
Well, first they're the lights are on, and
they think it's a burglar, don't they?
Yeah.
So they send Dopey up.
They send Dopey up, who comes crashing back down the stairs when Snow White stretches in her sleep. And pushes the sheets out, and he panics. And then they have a bit of a run around, and then they actually meet.
Yes. And she says, "Oh, I could keep house for you and all this. I need to hide from the evil queen." Yeah. And Doc's all "She's a woman now. Women are trouble. Send her away." Yeah. And, they can't send her away because the queen will find her and she'll die. Right. It's a very jolly house. I don't think this is particularly over a long period. A couple of days, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's a day or two at the most. Because she runs, and then the next time we see the queen, she's being handed the box and goes straight to the mirror. It's so who's the fairest now? Still Snow White.
And he tells her exactly where she is. She's staying with the dwarves at the so-and-so forest.
Yeah, over the 7 hills, past the 7 forests, in the house of 7 little men.
Yeah. So then she does a bit of magic, and we get quite a good magic sequence here where she creates a poison to poison an apple. Which will give someone sleeping death?
She turns herself into an old woman first as a disguise.
Yeah,
and her the potion for this has all sorts of crazy ingredients.
Yeah, it's lightning,
mummy dust, lightning, the laughter of a hag, And it's like, what?
And it's a really good sequence because you see her hair change and go all mad. And you see her hands change.
She says what all the ingredients do, and we see them in part by part happening to her.
Yeah.
So.
And it's a really good sequence. And it's scary. Yeah. There's a close up of her face first on the first reveal,
jump scare,
which must have made hundreds of thousands, probably millions of children cry in that time. But kids like being scared, so that's okay. Should have mentioned, because this is kind of important. There was a sequence where she was with a prince. Right, Snow White was with a prince right at the beginning.
Where she
he doesn't talk, by the way.
No, he sings a little bit.
Someday my prince will come, right? That's what she said.
No, that's later on.
Oh, that's later.
The first song is "I'm Wishing."
I'm wishing, of course.
Yeah, where she's singing into the well, and then they have a bit of back and forth in one song. Yeah, and then we move on to like "Whistle While You Work."
Yes. So the old queen is now a disguised hag, and she's got a poisoned apple. But she realised there's a flaw in there's a way of breaking a spell for the apple, which is can be broken by love's first kiss.
This is probably the most secure the villain can be. She's like immediately goes, "Oh, I've got my plan. I'm going to check if there's any flaws here." Right?
Yeah.
Like just straight away,
and she's like, that never happened. She'll be buried before then. Right?
It's love's first kiss. So.
Yeah. So she turns up as an old hag and goes to their house while the dwarves aren't around. The animals realise who she is, and they try and drive
her away.
And
but Snow White ignores them.
So they go off and go and get the dwarves, and the dwarves are like kind of freaked out, but then they realise, so they are all rushing back. Meanwhile, the queen's going, "Have a bite, dearie. It'll be good for you," and all this kind of stuff.
Well, she pitches it as a wishing apple.
Oh yeah, you'll get your true wish.
Snow White's like, "Oh, I wish I'd meet that prince again."
Yeah, and interestingly, that happens. So it is a wishing apple, indeed.
Yeah, indirectly. But also, most of it's off screen, so you hear Snow White start to choke, and the witch sort of like her smile growing as she looks like lower and lower.
Yeah.
And you see Snow White's arm come out from behind her too.
Yeah, like she's collapsed. Yeah, that's that. Now the dwarves are heartbroken. Firstly, they get back and they find the queen.
Start to try murdering her. So.
Yeah, and they chase her, and she's doing all sorts of magic. Isn't she doing magic back at them? But they keep.
No, she's just running. She runs up a hill and tries to push a boulder on them, but they're charging up the hill, mounted on like woodland animals with clubs.
Yeah. They're going to beat the queen to death, basically. Yeah.
They're in a mad scramble. There is nothing they are not taking their time about this. So she tries to push a boulder, and then lightning strikes her. And she collapses, and the boulder falls back over a cliff onto her. So
she's gone. In the original story, apparently she had to wear red hot boots and dance until she died.
Yeah.
That was prior to Snow White getting married. Yeah.
Creative death. But,
You couldn't put that in. That
good old Brothers Grimm.
Yes.
Just going to do some weird stuff like that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Now, the dwarves are heartbroken finding her what appears to be dead, but they're not sure. But they make a glass coffin lined with gold inset, right? And so she's kind of asleep.
Again, this is another bit where it's like if there's a fade to black, we get some text on screen
telling us,
and that says like the dwarves did all this, and then cut to the dwarves surrounded the coffin mourning.
Yeah. But the next spring, apparently, I didn't realise that in the film, the prince, I guess when the snow falls, the prince finds out about this and comes to the coffin, saddened by her death, but he kisses her, which then wakes her up. So then the prince takes Snow White back to the castle and they get married, I guess.
But it's framed in such a way that it's also for us just like, oh yeah, she's dead, this is heaven. Because she gets on the horse, they sort of slowly walk up to a cliffside, and then piercing through the clouds, you see a giant golden kingdom.
Yeah, it's a bit.
And then it fades to black. Heaven. It's like and it's happily ever after.
It's like the end of Greece or something.
She's
right?
dead. Yeah.
Now, none of the voice actors in this were particularly famous. I mean, I guess the woman who did Snow White got famous for being Snow White, right? But I
Yeah.
can't recall a scene in her in anything else. But I have to say the voice work was great. The dwarves were great. Snow White was great. It all really worked for me. The huntsman was good. Really impressive. The whole film's really
Yeah.
impressive. It's a good choice.
Yeah.
Apparently,
it's a good like.
Disney saw a 1916 silent film version of this.
Wow.
So it must have influenced him, obviously. In fact, it says here he cited it as the primary reason for choosing Snow White. Originally, they planned it as a short, but then thought, no, hold on, this has got potential, which I think they probably had a script for 50, 60 minutes, and they just stretched out a lot of the scenes, is how it feels. Not boring, though, I have to say, not boring. Quite an enjoyable film, this.
This is something kind of about Disney. He's always trying to push the animation medium in all the films.
Yeah.
So, like later things, we'll see like Fantasia developed surround sound. He started to push different like animation ways you actually draw the cells for animation. So there'd be. Did you know that 101 Dalmatians has technically live action work in it?
No, does it really?
Yeah, all the vehicles are models.
Oh, they look like animations.
Yeah, they look weirdly like CG, but they're models.
How about that? That probably saved a lot of time and effort, I imagine.
Yeah. It was in one of their sort of they have like a consistent thing of they go through big success peaks and massive like failure troughs. This was in one of the failure troughs where they were trying to save a lot of money. So yeah.
They went cheaper, didn't they, in the sort of late 60s, and went for cheaper forms of animation. Still great films, but they're obviously not to the same detail as, say, Snow White or
they did also
Pinocchio or or any of this, right?
They did also have the hiccup of World War II and all their animators got drafted.
Oh, okay.
So like the films between Bambi and Cinderella, that's like an era where they were really quite struggling in terms of works.
And apparently, when he recruited the animators, Disney got them all the animators into a soundstage one evening and acted out the entire story for 3 hours to give them an idea of how 3 hours.
That's insane.
Yes. So there is that. That's kind of nuts. So the studio staff were really excited and enthused, but they were a bit worried that a full-length film would just not do business.
But that did, like, very much so.
Yeah. And lots of people, commentators say, nah, more than 8 minutes, forget it. That's just, people aren't going to be interested. But that is totally not true.
There's a weird parallel between, because wasn't intended, according to a lot of stuff I've read. Walt Disney never intended for animation to be like the kids' medium.
Right.
And, like, he was trying to make more serious stories.
Which explains Fantasia, doesn't it?
Yeah, it explains Fantasia and such. But also, like, the same sort of thing Jim Henson did with puppetry. Like he was constantly on his way, just like, I want to make it like an actual show for adults with the Muppets,
which I guess was Dark Crystal, right? Well, the film Dark Crystal.
So that's why he would do stuff like Dark Crystal, where it was serious and not kid friendly, and you'd end up with like
of course Star Wars.
Star Wars.
I really enjoyed this film. It's not my favourite Disney. There's quite a lot of them I like better than this.
Disney,
yeah, you don't mind. But it's high, middle to high. That's where I'd put it in the sort of pantheon of Disney movies. It wouldn't be low, that's for sure. Though it's hard to think of many ones you'd say, what's the worst? Well, there's a couple maybe.
But there's some distinct ones. So.
Yeah, but Disney it's a bit like Pixar, right? Early days of Pixar, they just hit after hit, you know, and really successful films. And it took a long time for them to go off the boil. And Disney are kind of the same. Don't know. I haven't really got other than it must have blown their minds back in the 30s when this came out.
I'm
sheer
sure
colour, if nothing else.
The sort of bit where the camera zooms in on the Wicked Stepmother's face when she becomes old, that I don't doubt caused some fainting.
Yes. And, there wasn't any colour films before this. Really, Technicolor was from 1939 onwards.
Yeah.
With like Wizard of Oz and such like. So this was, in many respects, the first colour, not just the first animated feature, but the first colour feature that had a broad distribution, I'd say. I mean, some films were slightly colorized, but when I say that, they were tinted red. The whole frame was tinted red or blue, or it was that kind of thing. But this was something else. So it must have blown their minds. I haven't got much else to say really. Got anything else?
No, nothing that we've not already said, really.
Well, it's a strong opener.
Yeah.
Strong opener to this.
Good start to this Disney animated canon.
Yeah, and it just gets stronger and stronger after this as well, in many respects, for the next few. How would you rate this?
I'd rate this high. Like, this easily be like 8 or 9.
Yeah, I'd give it a straight 8 out of 10. I think it's probably a little slow and corny in places for, say, older kids. Sort of 8 and 9-year-olds would find this a bit corny. Little kids would love it, I think. But it is a lot of fun. The dwarves are always entertaining. Dopey's shenanigans, his wiggling ears. It kind of reminds me of Stan Laurel in some respects. His wiggling ears and his kind of goofy face. And so there's a touch of that. But
I've heard it termed that there's always like a dopey. There's always like a kid appeal character that's
I can see that. Yeah.
Someone like to, and that's true for modern day stuff. Even if it's like a side thing, like what are they called in Star Wars? The Porgs, the weird little puffin things.
Yeah. Star Wars plug into that quite a lot, don't they? In many respects. So a good fun film and quite entertaining. Doesn't feel boring in any ways. We've talked about some of the early scenes being quite prolonged. Not boring though. Not boring. I actually prefer the animation of the dwarves to the animation of, say, Snow White and the Queen, because you mentioned they were rotoscoped, and it looks a little jerky, whereas the dwarf animation doesn't look jerky. It looks smooth and well done. I think they were with the Queen, the Snow White, and the Prince. They were all trying to actually rotoscope the actors' faces as well, because the Huntsman is also rotoscoped, but he clearly has a different, like, more animated face. Yeah. I think the Queen works best out of all of those. I think Snow White and the Prince are the worst, and then the Huntsman's okay, and then the Queen is the best. I think they did the best job with the Queen, actually, especially when he turns into the old lady, because that's obviously not rotoscoped. That is,
I think it's because the Queen gets a lot of close-ups. Like, Snow White doesn't she gets like one close-up, and the Prince is never seen outside of a full body shot.
Yeah, I'd say the rotoscoping is for mid shots and long shots, right? And it looks worse in the mid shots. Yeah, I mean, it still works. And I quite enjoyed it. And I've watched it. I was just looking at Letterboxd. I've watched it in 2023 and 2024. But before that, I hadn't watched it for like 10, 15 years, because I've been on Letterboxd nearly 10 years now, I think. Something like that, maybe 8 years. And so I know my history of films from 8 years and later, right?
Yeah.
So, but I've watched it 2 years in a row before this rewatch. So, yeah.
Wow.
And interestingly, the last watch, the 2023 rewatch, was October. Oh, that's not that interesting, is it? So, yeah, not too long. I'm telling a lie here. I've just realised I'm looking at the review one I've just watched. So I've watched it twice. That's not true. Yeah. I watched 2 years in a row, though. So, okay. But I did start this series on my own, and then I mentioned it to you, and you said, I might be interested. So I stopped. So I've actually watched up to some of the old ones, like the Three Caballeros, late 40s. Yeah. I watched about 6 or 7. A lot of which are never talked about, for they're just not popular and they weren't re-released, so people don't really know about them. And of course, Song of the South and its problems as well.
Yeah.
But I've watched others that are I've watched Dumbo and stuff. But anyway, we'll get to those. So our next one will be Pinocchio, isn't it? On this, and I'm really looking forward to seeing Pinocchio again. I really like. There's some interesting stuff going on Pinocchio. I'm pretty sure there's no rotoscoping in that, but we'll see. It's such a mad story as well, right? That's the thing.
Yeah.
Okay. We both like this one.
Yeah.
So let's leave it there. So bye from me.
Bye.